Welcome to All About Art. My name is Alexandra, and I'm an art historian, curator, and writer. Within this podcast, topics relating to art history, cultural policy, the art sector, as well as a large range of other art-related topics will be covered. Conducting critical discussions, having entertaining exchanges, or just enjoying some relaxing chats, All About Art is where you'll find it all. Join me in exploring and developing cultural discourse. Welcome to another episode of All About Art. In this episode, I'll be doing an exhibition review. I did an exhibition hop recently. First going to see Yoshimoto Nara at the Hayward, which closed last week unfortunately, followed by Doho Sa, Walk the House at Tate Modern, which I was extremely excited about. This exhibition is running until October 26th. It was extended. It used to be until October 19th. So if you feel at all titillated by my review, there is plenty of time to go and see it. A bit of background on the artist. He was born in Seoul, South Korea in 1962, and he works primarily in sculpture, installation, and drawing, all which come to the fore in the exhibition. He's lived and worked across Seoul, New York, London, and Berlin, and rather than moving on from each place, he's developed a practice of preservation, or, as the exhibition would put it, a practice of memorializing spaces of each site he's lived. As someone who's lived in a lot of different cities, Seattle, Salzburg, and London, from the moment I walked into the show, I felt a resonance. He did a bachelor's and a master's of fine arts in Seoul and specialized in Korean painting, and then began experimenting more when he attended RISD, which is the Rhode Island School of Design, as well as Yale. So he has 2 bachelor's and 2 master's degrees. What I also find interesting to note about the artist is that he represented Korea in the 49th Venice Biennale, which was in 2001, and he currently lives and works in London. Although not really necessary to know in relation to the exhibition in particular, I do think that some of these biographical facts help build a deeper knowledge and holistic view about the artist and the works as we discuss them. The title Walk the House refers to the practice of disassembling and reassembling traditional Korean hanok houses. This concept has become a central metaphor in Sa's art, symbolizing his own journey of moving between places, including moving from his childhood hanok house, which makes an appearance in the exhibition, and exploring how we carry our memories and sense of home with us. Before even walking into the main exhibition space, though, I was greeted with the first artworks near the staircase and elevators of Tate Modern. Doho Sa's practice examines the relationship between architecture, space, the body, and memory, and it was really interesting to see the display exploring, as Tate would put it, the tensions between individuality and collectivity. Who Am We is the title of one of the works, and it's a wallpaper made out of thousands of tiny portrait photographs sourced from school yearbooks from South Korea. I almost walked right by it, because the wallpaper looks like it's just a bunch of dots, but when you get up close and personal, you see all of the people. Again, reiterating Tate's words, you are really confronted with the idea of individuality and collectivity. These individual identities coming together and creating this atmosphere, but with an almost negligible undercurrent of insignificance, in the sense that I really could have easily walked on by this display of thousands of faces without even really realizing it. This work sets up one of the key themes in the exhibition beautifully: how individual experiences of home and displacement connect to a larger collective narrative. It's a perfect introduction to Sa's ways of thinking in the relationship between the personal and the political, the individual and the collective. Walking into the main exhibition space, I spotted the very familiar, colorful installation I had seen all over Instagram, but I decided not to go look at that first. Instead, I turned right and I stood in front of the artworks hung on the wall. One of them of particular note was called My Homes, which the artist made in 2010 out of thread embedded in paper. It's hard to describe, but from afar, it looks like pen on paper drawings of scribbled and uneven lines forming little houses with legs or on wheels or flying, or some mixture of those motifs. But upon closer inspection, these scribbles were actually threads, basically sewn into the paper. Some were spread out, dangling, and hanging at odd angles, all kept in place by the glass of the frame. These houses relate to Sa's idea of the movable home, which is an idea present throughout the whole show. The threaded works depict homes as containers of complexity, but as I said, some showing houses with legs, or some even looking like little monsters about to consume each other, suggesting that the concept of home is not always comforting and it's not always stable. Turning around away from the threaded works on paper, I faced the room and this huge installation of a hanok house, which is a traditional Korean structure, was right in front of me. Again, this concept of movable home comes to the fore because this was his family's home, but recreated through two of his most central techniques developed in his practice, namely, number 1, measuring, and number 2, rubbing. The installation, titled Rubbing/Loving, Soul Home, was created between 2013 and 2022, and it represents nearly a decade of this obsessive labor. What I mean by this is, and how you can picture this in a physical form, is that the artist uses this incredibly painstakingly detailed process of measuring places, like his family home, and covering the entire interior or exterior in paper. He then rubs the paper with graphite. You know that thing that we all used to do as kids when we found a cool leaf or something, to lay a paper over it and rub it with graphite or just a pencil, and an imprint of it will show? That's the technique, but imagine that for an entire house. And this is what was on display in the exhibition. He's basically tracing these architectural builds, exploring each and every small detail. I noticed that throughout the whole exhibition, though. You're guided to look at the minute details of what a home can contain, like the pattern of the brick wall or the inscription on an electrical socket, even a doorknob. This work embodies something profound about the relationship between memory and place. Suh isn't just documenting architecture, he's preserving the feeling of spaces, the way surfaces wear with use, the tactile memory of the home. It's simultaneously a love letter and kind of a eulogy, a way of holding on to something before it disappears forever. I think anyone who's moved around a lot can understand the deep significance of this feeling, of wanting to somehow document the home that was once so loved and lived in. Now on to nests, which is the multicolored fabric structure you walk through that you've probably seen all over Instagram and is the hero image on all of the exhibition's marketing materials. It's semi-transparent, so you're walking through this hallway, but you're seeing everyone in front of you, behind you, and on the other side, sort of as if you're in another world or you're looking through a portal that you can't quite reach. It feels really transitional, or dare I say liminal, so like an in-between space of these faraway realities. What I mean by this word salad is that it's like you're in one space looking at a shelving unit made out of blue fabric that reminds you of a small apartment in a big city. But then you take 2 steps and you're surrounded by this beautiful ornate Korean door with tiny details made up of pink fabric. And you're looking at these minute details and the fact that there are these literal screws in door mechanisms that are remade out of this material. But then someone walks by you on the other side and you're ripped back into the reality of being in an exhibition surrounded by strangers who are also all taking in the art. It's like you're oscillating between these environments, and the exactitude by which the artist has created these structures, like I said, even down to the screws, is what sort of teleports you to these places while also reminding you that in some ways, I guess, as far as physical manifestations of memories go, they're like ghosts of experiences in a way. The level of detail is staggering, recreated with such precision, it's crazy. It really felt surreal to walk through the entire structure. Anyway, it's a one-way system, so you walk out the other end and come to the third major installation, which is called Perfect Home: London, Horsham, New York, Berlin, Providence, Seoul. The work is based on a 1:1 scale outline of the interior of Suh's London home, made out of this white, slightly translucent fabric like the other structure, but there are fixtures and fittings sewn in that are taken from all the different places he and his family have lived over the years. There are things like light switches, doorknobs, sockets, vents, ceiling lamps, locks, very banal, small, everyday things positioned at heights that they would have been in the original places. Some of them overlap one another, which makes it seem, on the one hand, really obsessive and meticulous, but at the same time, it makes it feel kind of messy. I guess evoking that same feeling of oscillating between letting something go or holding on to the memories while also making room for new ones. Sometimes these things aren't as clear-cut as we would like them to be in life, and this is a really interesting reminder of that. The color coding and overlapping fixtures create this beautiful chaos that feels both personal and universal. Anyone who's moved frequently will recognize the mental accumulation of these different domestic details. The way you remember exactly where the light switch was in your childhood bedroom, or how the door handle felt in your first apartment. For me, I remember the wallpaper of my London flat share in university and the carpet of my childhood bedroom in the United States. It really made me aware of my home now, and it made me think if I were to leave it, how much I would miss certain aspects that feel so undoubtedly mine, but that would be someone else's one day, like the lock on my door or my kitchen countertop. It's quite an interesting feeling to experience, this feeling of almost preemptive nostalgia. There are other parts of the exhibition that I haven't yet covered, such as the video works. Suh documents soon-to-be demolished housing estates using time-lapse photography, drone footage, and something called photogrammetry, stitching together photographs to create 3D models. Because these are people's homes, but they're also at risk of erasure, the tone shifts from personal, from Suh himself, to political, looking at a wider context, which again refers back to the earlier notion of the individual and collective that I was met with before even walking into the exhibition. The very end bit is called the Bridge Project, which I must admit could be an entire exhibition in its own right. In that project, Suh expands his ideas beyond the exploration for a perfect home and draws on issues of climate change, anthropology, and science. I grabbed one of the headphones and listened to a conversation he had with Sarah Fine, a philosopher. They talk about her ideas of what home means from relational, personal, and social perspectives, what it means to feel at home, and what it takes to make a home. For her, people are a big aspect, but also safety and security were phrases that she said relating to a dwelling place that feels like home. As a small critique of the show, I was sitting on the bench listening to these audios with headphones, and I wish that they had a curatorial edition to navigate the audio. I didn't know where I was in the interview, and it would have been great to start it from the beginning because I think I missed quite a lot of context. Speaking of critiques, for this episode, I was obviously reading other exhibition reviews because I was interested to see the reception, and critics had mixed feelings about the balance of the show. Some felt the big installations were so dominant that they overshadowed the smaller works, but I personally found the more intimate pieces compelling in their own right. There are these works, Time Pockets, which are 2 children's tunics that are in frames, and these tunics have pockets filled with objects selected by Suh's children when they were 8 and 10 years old. These garments, filled with colored pencils, marbles, and plastic toy dinosaurs, emphasize the artist's wider exploration of what we decide to carry with us from our past and why. It's nostalgic and interesting to think about these tiny, seemingly inconsequential, mundane objects meaning so much to a little kid. Right next to the tunics hung some drawings, and I disagree with some critics who felt the drawings couldn't compete with the installations. I found the curatorial approach to these wall works made them feel like an installation in their own right. My eyes followed the pen marks all across the various drawings, my favorite being the one detailing the perfect home. For the artist, it was the center between Seoul, New York, London, Berlin, his Hanok, and Providence. For me, it would be between Seattle, New York, London, Salzburg, and Vienna, if I could choose. The installations are mentally and physically stimulating, and when I went, they were also quite busy with a lot of people, so going into this alcove with the tunics and the drawings offered a bit of respite, rather than creating an imbalance in the show, in my opinion. To finish up, Doho Suh's Walk the House is an exhibition that explores what we carry with us as we move through the world. In an age of constant digital documentation, where we photograph everything but somehow remember less, I feel like there's something radical about Suh's analog, tactile approach to preservation. His obsessive attention to the smallest domestic details, every doorknob, every electrical socket, kind of asks us to slow down and truly look at the places that we inhabit. Whether you're moved by the ghostly beauty of his fabric architectures or challenged by his questions about home, belonging, and displacement, this is definitely an exhibition that stays with you long after you leave. It made me think about all the houses I've carried with me, and perhaps it will do the same for you too. The show runs until October 26, 2025, with tickets starting from £20 for adults. If you've been, or if you go before it closes, let me know in the comments or DMs and tell me what you thought. That's it for today's exhibition review episode of All About Art. As always, thank you so much for listening. And that is it for today on All About Art. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a rating or a review, as it helps more people discover the show. Also, feel free to share with your friends, or if you share on social media, tag me and get in touch. Thank you so much for listening.